Can you touch?
Yes, sure. Could you bring S. Manuel to me?
Yes, sir.
Let the record reflect the approach of the defendant, this counsel, the assistant state attorney, one of our jurors is saying, I got your message, your note, and I shared it with the attorneys. I don't quite understand, I guess, are you indicating this is a financial hardship to you? It said you're at work, but you're truly needed there, but it says your pay is short by substantial number, and so I don't know if you're telling us it's a financial hardship on you to continue, or what you really mean by the message.
Well, I really sacrificed it in the beginning, but since I was calling to be questioned without the internet and all that, I'm like, no, I'm just done with it.
Well, nobody tries to embarrass anybody, and I know you wrote in here about trying to be embarrassed. We're not. It's just something came up, and we just inquire the jurors what's going on, if there's an issue or not an issue. And so the question in this message is you're suggesting that on one end you want to be the alternate, so I would like to be an alternate, and then it goes on and says that your pay is short, and it seems like it's causing you a financial hardship. So
It hasn't caused me a hardship, but like I said, since I feel like I'm really not needed here anyway, since I was questioned, just get to go to work. And I mean, if I have to sit and then be an alternate, I just choose to be an alternate. I want to do my duty, but since I was questioned, like I was doing something wrong.
let me stop. No. That's when when issue comes up, we just talk to jurors, and you're under oath, and we trust that you're giving us a truthful answer. You gave us an answer, and we move on. That's all. They're just trying to put on the record whenever there's an issue that comes up. We ask the jurors and talk to the jurors about it. Nobody's trying to embarrass anybody. Nobody's trying to, in any way, shape, or form, do that. The only issue is there's procedures in place, and when an issue comes up, I need to inquire. That's my job. I have to inquire. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. So you're telling me it's not a financial hardship. You want to do your duty. Is that correct?
Yes, but until, because I know you have to take off 2 alternates, right? And I just want to do one.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm just trying to find out what the true intent of the message was. Thank you. Thank you. Let the record reflect the jurors step down. Counsel remain along with the defendant. So, Counsel, you ready to proceed?
Yes,
Want to
sir.
take any action at this time?
No, sir.
No? State? No? All right. So we're all set, ready to go?
Yes.
All right, grand jury, where's the witness?
I have to go get him, Judge. He's in.
Let's get the witness first, though.
Still using this. Oh, right. Right outside the door.
Thank you.
You're answering?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. You can see hope you have a pleasant weekend. In any event, we're back on regarding how you can see it. Thank you. Let the record reflect the presence of Mr. Demons, his counsel, the assistant state attorney, ladies and gentlemen. As I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, I trust you have a nice weekend. I think we're all ready to proceed. Is Detective Moretti out there?
Yes, sir.
Could you bring him in, please? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Alan.
Detective, as I'm sure you're well aware, we placed you on the road last week, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I want to let you know you're still in your direct examination, but you remain under oath. Understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Madam, if you're ready, you may continue with your direct examination.
Okay, Detective Moretti, we were in the middle of publishing the state's last numbered exhibit, which was 117. 117. So on the first page, which is actually page 71,473 for council, then we were discussing the user and the messages between YNW Melly Instagram and JKingRN.
Excuse me, Ms. Bradley, the monitor's not working here.
Oh, let me turn that on. Thank you. Let's see if something
They turn it on and off.
Well, it might be a little inconvenient, but if you could, perhaps we could just use this screen here.
Yes, ma'am.
So Detective Moretti, if you could publish the text of October 24th, 2018, 5:01:23 UTC from the user JKing. All right.
The text was, Jamell Demons, go lay down, I love you, all in capitals.
And remember, Demons like rhymes with lemons. I know. Okay, going on to October 26th, 2018. Publishing the next message here, and this is 10:58:02 UTC. If you could remind us again, the math calculation on October 26th of 2018 to get from UTC time to local Eastern time.
You just subtract 4 hours from the what you see at UTC, and that gets you into the Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, and so who was the author of this message and who was it sent to?
The author was J.KingRN, and it was sent to YNW Melly.
And what was the content of that message?
Are you okay? Question mark. I'm here in Miami. Send me an address. I'm by the stadium. I'm a mess.
So staying on that same thread ID, October 26th, 2018, and for Defense Counsel, that's page 75,935. The next message of October 26th, 2018, 11:26:16 UTC. What is the message?
I'm so worried. I'm here. Do you want me to come to your house?
And going to the next message, the response. And who is that from?
It is from the account of YNW Melly, and it is to J.KingRN.
Okay, and what is the content of that message?
I'm good, Ma.
Continuing down the next message in that thread, October 26, 2018, 11:26:31 UTC. Who is the author?
The author is J.KingRN.
And what is the text of the message?
I love you.
And who is it sent to?
YNW Melly.
Continuing on page 75,936 for Defense Counsel. And at the top of the page, the message of October 26, 2018, 11:26:38 UTC.
The message is, love you too.
And who is that from?
YNW Melly to J.KingRN.
So the response message, October 26, 2018, 11:26:58 UTC. What does the message say?
I need to find a hospital near you.
And who is that going to?
J.KingRN is the author, and recipient is YNW Melly.
Okay. The response from YNW Melly, 10/26/2018, 11:35:59 UTC.
The message is, I don't want to go.
So Detective Moretti, I want to take a break from the Instagram for a second. We'll come back to that one. During the course of the investigation, did you author a number of search warrants?
Yes, ma'am.
Approximately how many search warrants do you think you authored?
Well over 40, ma'am.
Okay. Did those include search warrants for the Instagram social media of Cortlen Henry?
Yes, ma'am.
Approximately how many of those were done for Cortlen Henry?
We did one for Cortlen Henry's Instagram account, one for his Gmail account, and one for a phone number associated with him.
Were there any indications in those social media accounts or anything else that he was using the YNW Melly account?
No, ma'am, none whatsoever.
Were there any indications that Mr. Henry or anyone else was saying contact or talking about any indications of using the 9807 phone number?
No, ma'am.
We talked briefly about some of the financials when we were on the stand a couple of days ago. During the course of this investigation, did you author subpoenas to get all of those financial records?
Yes, ma'am.
In the total amount of money in the time frame, if you could explain how much money was coming into these accounts?
The total coming in, and I done the subpoena started from I think right around March to for the Sun Trust, which is Truist now. So it'd be March, April, May.
Do we have the account number or name?
Thank you.
So Detective Moretti, in terms of you're talking about the Sun Trust account.
Yes, the Sun Trust account was in the name. I don't know the last four of the account number, but the account was in the name of Jameson Francois.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Jameson Francois.
And in terms of the business account for Jameson Francois, were some of the beneficiary or payouts of that to Jamell Demons?
Yes, ma'am.
The total amount of money that went in to the Sun Trust account as well as the Chase account,
Yes, ma'am.
about how much money went in?
Total amount for those two accounts for a 30-month period was about $16 million.
How much?
16 million.
16?
16.
Thank you.
Okay. Detective Moretti, in terms of the swabs that were put into evidence previously from the Jeep, do you know on what date the swab of the interior passenger door for the rear driver's side, do you know what date that was collected on?
10/26/2018.
So you discussed briefly as well about looking at the car on October 26th of 2018, about there being damage to the car. Do you recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
You had, and I'd asked you the next question as to, do you recall if there was a discussion as to how the car had been damaged previously?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had the opportunity to review the statement since that you took of Cortlen Henry?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you now recall where that damage to the front hood supposedly occurred?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was that?
In Atlanta, Georgia.
In terms of the statements or anything about the damage to the tires or the rims, did you ask the defendant, Mr. Henry, about that, those tires or rim damage in that statement? And if you don't recall...
Yeah, I don't recall this time.
So I'm going to, with looking at a copy of that statement, refresh your record.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So looking for defense counsel, page 6 of 13 of the transcript statement. And it's going to be this Andy Reader. Just read that sentence to yourself. Okay, Detective Moretti, did Mr. Henry describe some sort of incident in which the Jeep ran into a median?
Yes, ma'am. According to his statement, is when the alleged drive-by occurred, he swerved and hit the median.
Okay, and did you notice any damage or anything consistent with that on that Jeep?
No, ma'am.
So you mentioned you've done on a Facebook account on that. And so I'm now going to be showing what's been previously shown to defense counsel and marked as states in tuple R. At this point, the state would offer states in tuple R pursuant to 90.803 sub 6 as a business record.
Any objection?
Objections on grounds previously raised.
It's over, it'll be admitted.
So Detective Moretti, we discussed the Facebook account on that. Was there a cell phone number that was associated with the Jamell Demons Facebook account?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that?
772-713-9807.
Okay. Publishing page 1. Detective Moretti, could you explain the line where it says date range?
The date range is where when we author the warrants, that's the date range to where we're requesting that the provider, which is Facebook, all of the data they have during that time frame.
Okay. And so what is the time frame that was covered under this particular search warrant?
10/1/2018 to 1/18/2019.
Okay. And what was the name of the account?
Jamell Demons.
Demons, rhymes with...
Demons, my apologies.
Okay. In terms of the email addresses that are on there, on that account, are those some of the email addresses that we've talked about previously?
Yes, ma'am.
On the registration date, September 19th, 2010, what is that?
That's the date that the account was created with Facebook.
Now the next thing is part of page 1 is listed as mobile devices. What are the mobile devices portion of the Facebook returns?
That's all the mobile devices that are connecting to the account.
And does this go back until the creation date?
It goes back to the date to where we authored the warrant.
So in terms of does some of this information go from the beginning of the account itself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the phone number you mentioned on there, and this is now on page 4. What phone number was verified on this account?
772-713-9807.
And going to the PayPal account, what was the email for the PayPal account that was associated with this Facebook account?
mellymontana@icloud.com.
And if you recall, what was the name of the Snapchat account that was previously introduced into evidence as state 7?
Melly, Montana.
In terms of the IP logins, did you do any additional research on these particular IPs?
No, ma'am.
During the course of the investigation, did you have the opportunity to review all of the messages and content on Facebook?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there ever any indication somebody else was using that account?
No, ma'am.
In terms of the location, Pembroke Road and US 27 on the south side of the street, what jurisdiction is that in?
City of Miramar,
What county?
Broward County,
What state?
Florida.
And in terms of the individual that you've been identifying as Jamell Demons, do you see him in court today?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
And how do you recognize him?
He's wearing a black jacket, white shirt, sitting next to Mr. Addison.
Okay, your Honor, the record will reflect the in-court identification of the defendant.
Yes, counsel. Will reflect the in-court identification of the defendant.
Okay. So I want to go on to the last Instagram message thread that we'll talk about in this case. It's been previously shown to defense counsel as states quintuple S, and a copy provided thereof. Detective Moretti, do you recognize states quintuple S?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recognize that?
Is the Excel spreadsheet I created. I was able to isolate the thread ID and put it into a more readable format, because sometimes it's difficult reading it from the several thousand Facebook, Instagram pages. So I put it into a format on Excel, and you could easily read through and see the to and froms.
Okay. Does that fairly and accurately depict the thread ID between an individual identified as PZ_Gambino and the YNW Melly Instagram account?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the thread ID ending in 99651?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it any additions or deletions from the thread ID from the Instagram business records?
No, ma'am.
Now, at this time, the state would request to move states quintuple S in as states 119.
And we approach.
Yes, sir. What's the next number?
States quintuple S will be marked states 119.
So Detective Moretti, so it's clear on this page 1 and page 2, they go together.
Yes, ma'am.
And you did the calculations or adjustments for Eastern Standard from UTC in this particular document.
Yes, ma'am.
So in terms of, without saying specifically what, was Mr. Gambino offering merchandise to be sold to the YNW Melly account?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it real estate?
No, ma'am.
Were they physical, tangible items?
Yes, ma'am.
So going forward to the dates and times in question, when you're going through on this, I want to make sure it's clear that this first line corresponds to the page numbers. And where are you getting those page numbers from when you generated this document?
Top right-hand corner of the records provided to us from Facebook.
And this particular conversation, were you able to go through and isolate all of the information on this thread ID?
Yes, ma'am.
So with your permission, I'm going to go through, if we can just, if it says sender PZ Gambino, I will read it aloud, and if you would respond with whenever the sender is YNW Melly.
Okay.
So, first message, 10/19/2018, 1906. Sends a photograph from PZ Gambino.
Then 10/19/2018 at 1907, a message from the account of YNW Melly to PZ Gambino. Tell him 450.
10/19/2018, 1911, PZ Gambino. He say 5.
10/19/2018 at 1911, YNW Melly 475.
10/19/2018, 1929, PZ Gambino. Say less.
10/19/2018 at 1932, YNW Melly 480 at the most. 10/19/2018 at 1938, YNW Melly. What'd he say?
10/19/2018, 1953, 480. Call that number when you ready.
10/19/2018 at 1959, YNW Melly, bet. 10/19/2018, 2024, YNW Melly, yo.
10/19/2018, 2029, PZ Gambino. Yo.
10/19/2018 at 2032, YNW Melly. Might have to Uber, y'all. 10/19/2018, 2033, YNW Melly. To my crib and Uber y'all back.
I'm going to fast forward now in terms of the timeline and go to October 25th of 2018. Going to specifically 10/25/2018, 1436. PZ Gambino. You got a old iPhone you don't use. 10/25/2018, 1442. PZ Gambino sends a photograph.
10/25/2018 at 1540, YNW Melly. Hell no.
10/25/2018, 1542. PZ Gambino. Damn, all right.
10/25/2018 at 1543, YNW Melly. You need one?
10/25/2018, 1543. PZ Gambino. Hell yeah, dog. I need a phone ASAP. Okay.
10/25/2018, 1940, YNW Melly. The response is an unidentified emoji.
10/25/2018, 1940. PZ Gambino. YNW Melly. Unidentified emoji. So when it says unidentified emoji, how are you able to translate that or see what those are?
It's usually little tiny like rectangles or little squares that identifies its emoji, but when we try to put it into a Word document or something to translate to see what it is, we can't read it.
Okay. Do some of them translate in a Word document?
Some do, some don't.
Okay. So going to October 26th of 2018, not this specific conversation, but in reviewing the totality of the Instagram messages, are people checking in with the defendants or the YNW Melly account?
Sustained.
Are individuals sending messages to the YNW Melly account?
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of, are there responses to each of those messages from the YNW Melly account?
Sometimes, yes, ma'am.
In terms of images and photographs that were still circulating on social media on October 26th of 2018, were they all fair, accurate, and true statements as to what happened?
Sustained.
In terms of the October 26th, 2018 Facebook messages and social media information about these shootings that had happened.
There was a lot of false images.
Objection.
Sustained.
Move to strike on curative instruction.
Jury district.
If we could approach.
Sure.
Video of a white Jeep that was circulated on October 26th of 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
Was there a white sheet involved in this in any way, shape, or form?
No, ma'am.
When you are going through the messages, you mentioned that the defendant did respond to some of them.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm going to go and pull up page 75,932. So, Detective Moretti, I want to continue in that same thread with Mr. Gambino, PZ Gambino, that particular message. And I want to go to specifically October 26, 2018, 1940 UTC. Or, I'm sorry. Ten 26, 2018. You mentioned you can copy and paste them into Word to as such. On October 26th of 2018 at 20:02:18 UTC, what does the YNW Melly account state?
I did that with a smiley emoji.
In terms of what was that in response to from the PZ Gambino account?
Objection.
Overruled.
The PZ Gambino account asked him if he was okay, and his response was, I did that, and placed a smiley face emoji.
And the next message from 10/26/2018 at 16:02 from Eastern Standard Time, the YNW Melly account says what?
After that, SHHHH.
And could you please stand and point on the right side of the screen exactly which part you're saying where the YNW Melly account says, I did that?
I did that. This is the thread ID. This is the text. This is the author. And this is the recipient. Then you come down here, same thing. The ID is for the actual message, which is just specific to that one message. Then the thread ID is the actual continuation of continued message. Then come down here to it says text. The SHHHH.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Keep that up, will you please?
Of course.
Lead Detective Moretti. You are the lead detective.
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, yes.
Well, you just promoted me, so you better apologize to the judge.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I'd like to consider. I can't see my eyes. Could you point to where I did that? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how do you spell that?
THAT.
Okay. Let me show you some copies of 9807, please, without going through all the messages. They're all from exhibits that you introduced. May I mark this as a composite exhibit? Please. Do you have any objection?
Counsel, are you offering it?
I'm going to offer it in evidence, yes. As a
Are you
composite
doing it now?
exhibit. Huh?
Are you doing it now? That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yes.
State of any objection?
Starting evidence, if you just would cross-reference from which exhibit you got the news from.
I wish I could. There's 4,000 of them that we took samples.
Excuse me one second. So it's admitted. What's the next exhibit number?
The defense. Be pre-marked as defense exhibit D
It's going to be offered in evidence. So
and offered in evidence as defense 4.
in evidence as defense 4.
I'm sorry, defense 2. So
Defense 2, I'm sorry.
pre-marked as defense 2.
And how many pages?
I didn't count.
Conversation, clerk, do it.
I apologize.
No problem.
I get past, when they mention 70,000, I get confused. And while he's marking them, may I ask the witness a question?
Yeah, sure. I think he's got, how many pages is it?
Composite of 19.
19 pages. We're making it a little simpler. This is coming from 9807, the phone.
I don't know which,
I'm going to tell you.
okay.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes, sir.
Spelled on this, T-H-A-T, that. Correct?
Correct.
This is coming from the 9807 that the state has introduced thousands of pages indicating
Counsel specifying.
Overruled.
that it belongs, or it's a phone that Melly uses, correct?
Correct.
Page 1 of defense exhibit coming from 9807. Would you tell the jury how he spells that?
Dat, D-A-T.
D-A-T. Page 2. Will you tell the jury how he spells that?
D-A-T.
D-A-T. Not T-H-A-T, D-A-T, correct?
Correct.
Page 3, coming out of 9807. How does he spell that?
D-A-T.
So when Melly spells the word that, you want me to go through all 19 pages? Or will you take my word that every time, coming out of 9807 that's attributed to this young man as writing the message, he does not spell it T-H-A-T, but D-A-T. Would you like to look through them?
No, sir. You're asking me to explain that the one moment he decided to use proper
What?
grammar.
One moment. These phone messages sitting there.
One at a time. All right. What's the objection?
Argumentative.
Overruled.
These phone messages that the state introduced sitting on this pages that we painfully went through, he spells it D-A-T, not T-H-A-T, except for this one occasion. Right?
Correct.
Huh, what a strange thing.
Counsel?
I'm sorry, Judge. I apologize.
You have a paper clip, I see. Put it on the table.
Somewhat unusual, wouldn't you think?
Objection, speculation.
Okay. Before we get into your investigation totally, you became aware that the state employed or brought in the FBI to analyze these phones, correct?
Yes, sir.
They brought in the FBI,
Actually, correction, sir, to analyze the cell site tower, not the actual phones.
cell site towers, so that they could tell the jury where these phones were located. All right?
Correct, sir.
Jameson, let's see for 1 second.
Any trouble?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short recess. Do not discuss the case, don't form any opinion about the case, don't allow anyone to discuss the case in your presence, there is no research. Just leave your notepad on your chairs, we'll be back with you shortly. Thank you. All right, let the record reflect the jury stepped out, Counsel Reno along with the defendant. I understand that the defendant needs a restroom break. Can we arrange it for that as well?
Thank you.
All right, anything to discuss, counsel?
Other than that you can take that off the screen right now. No, sir.
I've asked somebody to come up to try to figure out why it won't show on the other thing.
Can I leave my notes right here?
It's all right with me. We're in recess. Jury entering. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Please be seated. Let the record once again reflect the presence of our jury. The defendant, Mr. Demons, his counsel, the assistant attorney, the witness, Detective Mark Moretti, remains on the witness stand. Counsel will probe. I think you're on your, just commence your cross-examination. If you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you. When we took the break, we were talking about the state bringing in the FBI to plot out where the phones were. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
And the reason they brought the FBI in is because the FBI has a special unit to map out and plot where phones are. And they do that not only in this country, but all over the world.
Correct.
And the FBI agent they brought in was, in fact, Special Agent Collins. And you met with him.
Yes, sir.
And he was from the CAST unit,
Yes, sir.
which stands for Cellular Analysis Survey Team.
Yes, sir.
And that is a unit that is brought in not only throughout the United States, but throughout the world to plot out and find the location of phones. Correct?
Correct.
And to render opinions as to where the phones are located at a particular time.
Correct.
Now, were you aware that in order for him to do that, one of the things he needed was the name of the cell provider, correct?
Yes.
And the list of towers in a particular area that he's trying to locate the phone.
I don't know if he needed the list of towers, but that's standard.
Would it surprise you to learn that he needs not only the provider name, but the list of towers in a particular area so that he can attempt to map out and tell a jury like this where the phones are located at a particular time?
I have to disagree because the platform they use, CastViz, is linked with what's called NDCAC. It's the national database of all the cell towers that's maintained in the United States. So the platform they use is constantly updated. Now, when we use the platform we use, we have to update it periodically because more towers are added. So as for the fact that he needed it, I'm not sure about that, sir.
Okay. Are you aware that even though they are the Rolls-Royce of locating phones throughout the world, that they cannot pinpoint at a particular time exactly where a phone is at any particular time?
Correct.
They can only give a general area.
Correct, sir.
That general area is approximately a couple miles wide, correct?
No, it's more like meters as compared to miles. It's accurate, but it's not precise.
Now, you indicated to these folks that you looked at something on the cell records called environment,
Yes, sir.
and you use that as a guide to locate or plot where a particular phone is at a particular time, correct?
No, sir, that's inaccurate. The environment just tells us where the phone is interpreting where it's at. Example, it tells us if it's mobile, if it's outdoor, it tells us it's indoor. The environment has nothing to do with the location data. We use that in this case because every time we had an environment response from the T-Mobile records, I could corroborate it with video. Example, when he walked out of the recording studio at 3:18 a.m., the phone was registering outdoor.
How about when it was on I-75 or 595?
It was saying mobile. And if you would let me finish, every time the phone was registering outdoor, mobile, we had video to corroborate that. So he's walking, he's outdoors, it says mobile. It says outdoor. The second he gets in that vehicle and drives away, it switches over to mobile. On 595, we have video, mobile. On Pines Boulevard near the Monastery School, it says mobile. Passing McDonald's, mobile. After the shooting, after the murder, it's coming back east on Pines Boulevard, it's saying mobile. So we had video to corroborate that one little instant, that one little section of the box.
Are you aware that the FBI never, ever uses the label environment because they cannot attest to the reliability of that?
Well, I can't attest to how the FBI operates. I can't attest to their
Could you
policy.
just answer my question, yes or no, and then explain?
I sustain the objection.
Repeat the question, sir.
Are you aware, yes or no, whether or not you're aware that the FBI does not look at the environment because they cannot attest to the reliability?
I am not aware of that.
Fair enough. You also use latitude and longitude coordinates.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that the FBI does not rely upon the latitude and longitude when they determine where a phone is?
The latitude and longitude that comes into play on the true call data report of the cell phone, it's an estimate. The cell phone provider is providing us an estimate where they believe the phone might be. Like we said before, it's not precise, but it's accurate.
My question to you wasn't that. My question to you is, are you aware?
Excuse me. What's the objection?
Badgering and you may approach briefly on it.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Are you aware, sir, that the FBI does not use the latitude and longitude coordinates when doing their analysis?
No.
Are you aware, sir, that the FBI never uses a cellular analysis by itself to prove a case?
Neither do we, sir.
All you are saying, basically, is that a phone may be in a general area, correct?
Correct, sir.
Cannot be 100% correct, right?
Correct.
And in fact, depending upon what tower it bounces off on, it could be totally incorrect.
There has been false readings with towers. There has been false readings with towers. And sometimes, anomalies within the records. It happens.
And we've heard a lot of talk about chat messages, and you read with both prosecutors various messages for what I perceive to be days, but hours, maybe. Days.
I would agree with you. It was long.
Long. And they would say, I'm going to pretend to be Mr. Smith, for instance, and you read the message coming from Judge Murphy, but I'll get in trouble. Not Judge Murphy. How about that gentleman in the back from BSO?
Okay.
And the messages were read and identified as those two people, the state and that BSO officer sitting in that corner.
Yes, sir.
Basically, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're aware, in order to really tell a jury who the person is, you need that person, like this.
What's the suggestion?
Foundation.
Sustain, rephrase.
You've had training in analyzing phones,
Yes, sir.
somewhat, correct?
Yes, sir.
You have been an officer or a detective for some 20 plus years.
Yes, sir.
In order to identify someone's voice, you would need, legally in the courtroom, as you know, the person who made the phone call, correct?
Yes, sir.
Or the person who received the phone call. Did you ever speak to, what was his name, Gambino?
Yes, I did. Patrick Deloach is his real name. Deloach, Deloach.
Now, in addition to that, you told this jury that you attempted to, well, you did get some cameras off of 595 and I-75, correct?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell the jury if you could see who was in each vehicle?
No, sir, you cannot tell.
Could you tell this jury how many people were in each vehicle?
No, sir, you cannot tell.
And you did get a surveillance from Montessori School, correct?
Yes, sir. And McDonald's.
And McDonald's. Well, on Miramar Parkway, for instance, the only surveillance you got was from the Montessori School, correct?
No, Montessori School is on Pines Boulevard.
Okay. Did you get any surveillance from any of the cameras on Miramar Parkway?
More specifics are which one you're referring to.
Okay. How about the CVS that's on Miramar Parkway?
It doesn't cover up that far.
Did you pull it?
We went there.
Did you look at it?
Yes, sir.
How about Applebee's on Miramar Parkway?
Where's there Applebee's on Miramar Parkway?
We're on Dykes Road. On Miramar Parkway West, on Dykes Road, on the intersection.
Yeah, there's a pharmacy there, but there's no Applebee's there.
Did you go to that pharmacy?
Yes, sir.
Did you pull the surveillance?
No, sir.
How about the Pollo Tropical?
Their videos didn't cover that area.
Did you pull them?
No, sir.
Did you look at them?
No, sir.
How about the gas station that's on Miramar Parkway?
The one just east of McDonald's?
Yes.
Yes, it did not cover the road.
How about the bank that was on the corner of 172nd and Miramar Parkway?
Did not cover the road.
Did you look at it?
Yes, sir.
Did you bring it in?
No, sir.
How about the four-way intersection where there's 4 cameras on 172nd Avenue?
Cameras covering the road.
Yeah,
We
to see the
decided-
cars driving through.
There's no traffic cameras at 172 and Pines. It seems to be a great misconception when people see those white boxes on top of the cameras. Those are actually control the traffic signals. They're sensors. The old sensors used to be in the road. They would burn out. The lights would not cycle properly. So, but there's no cameras. It's a great misconception.
Okay, then you said the vehicle turned right on and went south on 184th. Is that correct?
Which vehicle?
The Jeep?
Jeep never went south on 184.
Did it make a right turn on 184, the Jeep?
Yes, sir.
That would be north.
Yes, sir.
My mistake. Did you look at the camera at Publix that's on that road?
Doesn't cover the road, sir.
Did you pull it and look at it?
We went there. It does not cover the road.
My question is, did you look at it?
Yes.
How about Sunset Lakes Elementary? That's there. Did you pull that camera, sir?
No, sir.
How about West Broward Elementary? Did you pull that camera
Where's West Broward Elementary located at?
on south on 184?
184 and what?
Pembroke Road.
Pembroke Road in 184?
Yes.
I don't know of a West Broward school there at Pembroke Road in 184.
Okay. How about the Walmart?
No, sir.
You didn't look at it.
No, sir.
How about the Audi Market? Did
No,
you
sir.
look at that one?
No, sir.
How about the Walgreens?
No, sir.
We know that you pulled the Montessori school.
Yes, sir.
How about the Exxon? That's right down the street from there.
No, sir.
How about Somerset Academy?
No, sir.
How about the Tractor Supply Company on that street? Did you bother to look at that camera?
We're specifically on Pines Boulevard as a Tractor Supply.
190 what? 192nd.
No, sir.
You missed quite a few cameras.
No, sir.
No. Now, you were told by Cortlen Henry that the day of October 25th, several people went to the flea market to buy some weed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Certainly you went there to pull the tapes of the flea market so that you could show this jury, didn't you?
No, sir.
But you did a helicopter ride to show this jury this route on what day?
May 2023.
May of 2023,
Yes, sir.
after this trial started. Correct?
Action, Your Honor.
Suggestion.
You did this helicopter ride in May of 2023,
Yes, sir.
after this trial started, correct?
Correct.
And you did this drive-by in a car with a partner filming it. On what day?
March 2022.
That was 2 years after this incident?
4 years, actually, sir.
4 years. That's why I'm a lawyer and can't be an accountant. 4 years after this incident.
Yes, sir.
And that was all done at the request of the state of Florida, correct?
Correct.
The prosecutors in this case,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
4 years after the incident.
Yes.
4 years after this young man.
Excuse me?
That's an answer.
Thank you. Just say.
4 years after this young man surrendered, correct?
Sustain the objection. Ask your next question.
Let's look at Exhibit 115, if I could find it. That's the blue phone, I think, that was in the vehicle.
The black LG phone. The blue phone belonging to Chris Thomas, or the one belonging to Anthony Williams, or the one was in the back seat rest?
Okay. I need a lot of you find in 150, I think it's Exhibit 115. That's the phone that was, the third phone found in the car, correct?
Yes, sir.
That you said you don't know who the owner is, correct?
Correct, sir.
During one of the breaks, I asked you to open that phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there was a SIM card in there, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that SIM card has a serial number on it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Fine? No?
Good
Can
answer.
you step down for a second? See if you find it.
You need help you find Chelsea?
If you could, yes. Could you step down to help?
Is it one of the other ones?
I'm too old to say. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes. 115, whatever.
That is 115, State's Exhibit 115. Could you open that, take that phone out, please?
Yes. I'm just going to put gloves on just because there was blood on it one time.
I don't blame you. Was that phone, while you're pulling it out, analyzed to determine whose blood it was?
Yes, sir. We took it to HIDA, High Intensity Drug Trafficking Agency, and they had them attempt to analyze the phone. It's completely broken.
Could you open that phone like you did during, when I asked you to? Don't pull out your burglary key now.
It's not a burglary tool, it should be a burglary, sir. Okay. I don't want to lose it.
Did you pull it out?
Yes, sir, it's right here.
Could you pull out this, did you pull out the
Yes,
SIM
the card's right
card?
here, sir.
Could you read the serial number off of that, sir?
8901120000080218727. It looks like there's an 80.01A.
Okay. Could you, with the court's permission, let the jury see that SIM card?
You want to publish it to the jury?
Yes. Let him hold it.
Any objection? Go right ahead. You step down. Executive.
Just good.
I don't know how to work the computer. I'd rather him just show it to the jury.
You may step down. Thank you.
That's what a SIM card looks like. That's how the phone communicates with the tower. It's the serial number we just
Turn it
read.
up, please.
And that's the,
Yeah, we're gonna make it, because
now you do it to me.
I just wanted you to get some exercise, quite candidly.
There's no book on this. This is safe, sir. What do you want to put that right here?
Wherever you can, wherever it's published on the screen.
Put it up there.
Okay. We're gonna leave it there for a second. I'm sorry, may I approach? I apologize. That's the serial number, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it goes to a Sprint phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're aware that that SIM number can be tracked once you have the provider
Yes, sir.
to a particular phone.
Yes, sir.
Did you do that in this case?
No, sir.
Fair enough. You could take that SIM card back.
Can I step down, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Now, I'm sorry, tell me when you're ready.
You
You
go
put
ahead.
it back in the 115, the bag.
It's going to take me a few minutes. I'll wait till the next break. If you want to.
I don't want the clerk to get in trouble, so just
Okay.
put it back in there. Let me return it to the table. The clerk's watching very carefully.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now, what I'd like to do is somewhat go in chronological order of your investigation, if I may. You get a call on October 26, 2018, to report to the Memorial Hospital, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you get there at about 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, sir.
At 6 o'clock in the morning, you speak to the first officer, which would have been Officer Amagor,
Yes, sir.
and also on the scene is Detective Bertram and Bermudez.
Sergeant Bermudez, yes.
Sergeant, I apologize. And you are assigned the lead detective role.
Yes, sir.
And that is like a conductor in an orchestra. All right.
I wouldn't categorize that, but
Now, are pictures taken of the two individuals that were shot before they were removed from the vehicle, the Jeep?
yes. No, sir.
You immediately go and speak to Cortlen Henry, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we listened to the tape of Mr. Henry,
Yes, sir.
who told you that there were 3 people in his car, correct?
Yes, sir.
Cortlen Henry, the driver, correct?
Yes.
Christopher, and, well, let me get in the right order. In the front passenger seat was Anthony Williams,
Yes.
and sitting in the rear passenger seat was Christopher Thomas.
Yes.
Only those 3 people when the shooting occurred, correct?
Correct.
You learned that he lied to you about where the drive-by shooting was, correct?
Yes.
You went to, 3 different areas to look for evidence of the drive-by of Cortlen, what Cortlen Henry told you, correct?
Yes.
You learned at that time that at first he was labeled a victim, but that he now is lying to the police concerning the shooting of 2 individuals.
He was still listed as a victim that day, even though we knew he was lying to us, but he was still considered a victim at that point.
There is such a crime as lying to the police, correct?
Yes, sir. It's a misdemeanor.
You could have arrested him if you so chose for lying to the police, correct?
You're saying I should have arrested a potential victim of a violent crime on a misdemeanor?
Could you just answer my question? Could you have arrested him, yes or no?
Yes.
And you spoke to him for approximately an hour or 2, correct?
It was about an hour.
Okay. And he gave you the address where he lives, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that address was 18521 Southwest 44th Street, Silver Lakes,
Yes, sir. No, Sunset Lakes.
Sunset Lakes. But he gave you the home address.
Yes.
And he tells you also that Melly lives there, correct?
Yes.
He tells you Anthony Williams, one of the victims, lives there.
Yes.
He tells you Christopher Thomas, the other victim, lives there, correct?
Correct.
And he also tells you that Melly is a recording artist, correct?
Yes.
And we learned from the testimony that $16 million went into Jameson Francois' bank account.
Over a 30-month period, yes.
Okay. So, and he was the business manager of this 19-year-old young man,
Yes.
you learned later, correct?
Yes.
A rather successful, would you say, recording artist.
I really don't understand the music business, sir. I don't know how the money's made, how it comes in.
I'm not asking you that. Someone who earns $16 million in 30 months legally is pretty successful, wouldn't you say?
Well, I don't, like I said before, that we could never determine the amount of money, what was, because Mr. Francois had other clients, so we could never isolate what specifically is made by one artist over another.
Okay.
We just knew the money was there.
So, you knew that the two victims, the driver of the car that lied to you, and Melly lived, and you had the address at the same house.
Yes.
You also learned about that time, and you mentioned it briefly, that a text message came out from a crucial almighty.
Yes.
And that text message was, we were just aiming at YNW. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And it had a picture of him with a target. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So it would be fair to say, on October 26th of 18, Crucial Almighty, which his real name was David Hedgepath, was suspect number one based upon that.
It was a person of interest. It was something to look at.
When did you, since you knew this, on October 26th of 2018, when did you decide to talk to the David Hedgepath, Crucial Almighty, who said he shot at this young man inside a Jeep? What date?
I first did a search warrant into his social media account where the comments came from, which then we was able to determine a better picture of Mr. Hedgepath was. So it was probably maybe 2 years later when we interviewed Mr. Hedgepath.
2 years later. That would be in 20?
Yes, sir.
A year after this young man surrenders to you, to the police?
I'm not sure the exact date, but
February of 19.
okay.
Would you agree it was 2 years after that?
Yes, sir.
And you interviewed him after the case was closed, correct? Because it was closed at the time of the arrest
Yes,
of
sir.
Melly, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you subpoena any records from him? concerning?
His work records.
And when do you subpoena those work records?
About 2 years later, after we interviewed him.
Okay, and I think you introduced him as. Did you speak to any of his co-employees to verify whether or not he was really working when the time clock indicated he was?
No, sir.
No. You also learned from Cortlen Henry that they were having a problem with a guy named Benton.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to label him as suspect number 2. Who is Bentley?
We never could identify him.
So last name unknown.
Correct.
You also learned that there was a problem at Walmart where they got jumped and I think a necklace or a bracelet was stolen.
A little pendant fell off one of them, yes.
Okay. Did you go to Walmart to investigate that?
No, sir.
I'm going to make him suspect number 3 so far. And I'm going to just label him Walmart with a question mark. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Did you bother to go and attempt to pull the surveillance of Walmart because they keep their tapes for a while?
Not a while, sir, but usually about 30 days.
Did you go to Walmart to attempt to see if it even didn't exist?
No, sir.
Now, you then, during October 26th, get the surveillance tape of the people coming out of the recording studio, correct?
On which date, sir?
The 26th.
Yes, sir.
You respond to the hospital in the morning.
Yes, sir.
By mid-afternoon, you get the surveillance tape, correct?
Yes, sir.
You identify, do you not, by the end of October 26th, all 8 people that left the recording studio?
I think we had more like the 27th, everyone was pretty much identified.
Okay. By October 27th, you identified Cortlen Henry, correct?
Yes, sir.
Anthony Williams,
Yes, sir.
Christopher Thomas,
Yes, sir.
Trevon Glass,
Yes, sir.
Melly,
Yes, sir.
I'm missing 3.
Jacoby Mills and-
Jacoby Mills,
Dontavius Withers
Dontavius Withers, and Adrian Davis. All 8 people that left the recording studio, and 2 had passed away, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you knew where all 8 of them were living, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was at the 18720, whatever that address I read off before.
The Sunset Lakes, 184 Southwest 44th Street.
You had that address, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had observed the bloody scene of inside the Jeep, correct?
Correct.
And you knew that Cortlen Henry had lied to you.
Correct.
So you certainly, at that point, obtained a search warrant to look at that house to see if you could find any blood, any gun, or anything to tie up what happened in that car, correct?
There is no way we could have got a search warrant for that house because there was no nexus to the crime to the house. And I have to establish a nexus between the two or the judges will not sign the warrant.
Did you even try, sir, to get a search warrant and go in front of a judge and say, I got 8 people who left the studio. They all live in the same house. The driver of the vehicle we interviewed lied, and the inside of the Jeep is covered in blood, and we're looking for the gun or guns and the bloody clothes involved in this. Did you bother to do that, sir?
So like I said before, there was no connection between the house and the crime itself. Now,
The answer-
where we had blood, where we had evidence, where we had instruments of a crime, we did search warrants. Anytime we had a nexus between the two, we did a search warrant. We never had a nexus between the two. We even went to that house that day, knocked on the door, there was no one there.
You could have secured that house by officers standing in front of it and at least come to this jury and say, I went to a judge, explain to the judge, 8 people live in a house, 8 people left the studio, and a few hours later, 2 people ended up dead, and the driver of the vehicle lied to us about everything concerning the shooting. You could have done that, couldn't you?
No, that's not how that works, sir.
Not how it works. Fair enough. Did you get a search warrant of the house in November at all?
You mean for which house, sir?
The house where Melly lived.
No, sir.
How about December?
They were already gone at that point.
You could have looked for blood, traces of blood, because we saw that you sprayed this agent on things and miraculously blood surfaces. You know that.
Yes, sir.
Did you do that?
No, sir.
You mentioned to the state that you spoke to an Adrian Davis and a Dontavius Withers, correct?
Yes, sir.
They were the 2 of the individuals that originally left the studio
Yes, sir.
and got into the red Mitsubishi.
Correct.
You learned from that.
I
I haven't even asked a question.
Hey, you watched himself. Take a short recess. Do not discuss the case. Don't form any opinion about the case. Don't allow anyone to discuss the case in your presence. There is no research. There's no case on your jurisdiction. Thank you. Thank you. Let the record reflect the jury stepped out. Counsel remain along with the defendant. Mr. Demons needs a restroom break. All right. Thank you. We're in recess.
Jurors entering.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Please be seated. Let the record once again reflect the presence of the defendant, Mr. Demons, his counsel, the assistant state attorneys. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, our witness, Detective Mark Moretti remains on the stand. Counsel, if you're ready to continue with your cross, you may.
Thank you. I think we were on October 27th, but I want to go back to October 26th for a moment.
Yes.
Leave the hospital. You go to various areas to look for a drive-by. And you learn that Cortlen Henry lied to you. Okay?
Yes.
Do you not get a search warrant for the Jeep?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, the Jeep is searched on October 26th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the purpose of that was to photograph it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Process it for fingerprints and DNA,
Correct.
and to collect all the physical evidence with inside the Jeep that could lead to who did this, correct?
Correct.
And that was done over several hours, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, it was done by at least 2 crime scene technicians.
Yes, sir.
Now, there was also the red Mitsubishi that was seen leaving the area, correct?
Yes, sir.
With several people, correct?
Yes, sir.
That you ended up interviewing over the course of this investigation, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you, in fact, search the red Mitsubishi at any time?
No, sir.
Did you, in fact, process the red Mitsubishi to get fingerprints to determine who was inside that vehicle?
No, sir.
Had you done that, you could have obtained DNA.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
If you did that, that could verify, would it not, whether or not Melly got inside that vehicle. Right?
Not necessarily.
But it could have.
Possibly, yes.
October 27th, I think we were done at. You interviewed, as you've indicated, Dontavius Withers again, correct?
Yes, sir.
At the end of October 27th, Melly was not in the Jeep during the shooting, according to your investigation, correct?
Repeat that question.
At the end of October 27th, your information indicated that this young man was not in the Jeep at that time when the shootings occurred, correct?
That was based upon the false statement of Dontavius Withers.
say false statement. You have Cortlen Henry who told you this, that he wasn't there, correct?
Hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you learn that the day of them going to the studio, that Christopher Thomas and Anthony Williams went to the flea market?
I don't know which two went. I could have sworn Dontavius went to the flea market. Maybe it was Chris Thomas and Anthony Williams.
And you've already indicated you don't go there to verify or prove or disprove.
Correct.
On October 31st is when you obtain a warrant on David Hedgepodge, Twitter account, I think you testified to. All right.
Yes, sir. You said October 31st?
October 31st,
Yes, sir.
Halloween day. Correct?
Yes, sir.
But you don't interview him until 2 or 3 years later.
Correct.
On November 1st, you again searched the Jeep, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that's the second time you've searched this vehicle, correct?
Yes, sir.
The 26th, and now November 1st, correct?
Correct.
And again, that is to collect any evidence, process it. If you miss any evidence,
No, so if my recollection stands correct, the second search warrant was for a trajectory analysis to be conducted by Mr. Kelly.
on November 2nd, you interviewed, do you not, Christopher Thomas Sr.
On which date?
November 2nd.
November 2nd, Chris Thomas Sr.
Yes.
Oh, at the funeral. Yes, sir.
And without telling us what it is, what he told you, you discovered there was a problem.
Hearsay.
Sustained.
Do you find out that Christopher Thomas Sr. had issues
Objection.
with
Hearsay.
Anthony Williams?
Sustained.
Do you ever investigate Anthony Williams Sr.?
Can you repeat that question, sir?
Do you ever investigate Anthony Williams Sr.? Christopher Thomas, I'm sorry. Sr.
No, sir.
I'm going to make him suspect number 4.
Okay.
On November 18th, based upon your phone analysis, and going through the various phones, you get some mapping that in May the shooting may have occurred at a trailer park, correct?
One cell phone, the cell phone of Chris Thomas, hit off of a cell tower near a trailer park, Holiday Park. But we didn't have anything to accompany those other than a cell site in the sector. So that was all we had to work with at that point, was that one general area. We went
Could
out
you
to-
answer my question? On November 18th, based upon whatever analysis, you go to Holiday Park, trailer park, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's based upon some analysis of a phone, correct?
Of a cell tower, cell site, yeah, sir.
You find absolutely nothing.
Correct.
And you learn that basically you went on a wild goose chase based upon your analysis of that one phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
Approximately 1 month later, on November 21st, you find the scene with the 8 casings, 8 projectiles. correct?
8 spent casings, sir. Projectiles and casings are different.
I get those terms confused. I apologize. And we saw about 50 pictures of those 8, what are they?
Casings.
Casings. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Looking at the south end, the north end, the east end, and the west end, right?
Yes, sir.
Seven days later, do you search the Jeep again?
I'm not sure when we went back to the Jeep.
If I showed you something that would refresh your recollection,
Yes, sir.
let's see if I can find it. Can I go to the ground?
Yes.
May I approach? May I approach?
Yeah, just identify what you're approaching with.
I'm looking at a report and a timeline. May I?
Yes.
On the 8th, trajectory rise. Jeep compass.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So on 11/28, you go back to the Jeep for the 3rd time, correct?
Yes, sir.
On December 4th, based upon the analysis of various phones or whatever, you, along with Miami-Dade Police and ATF, search a canal off of I-75, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was based on some pinging or mapping of the 9807 phone, correct?
It was not the pinging, that's the proper terminology. It was the true call data, which placed the phone near the C9 canal.
And both Miramar Police, Miami-Dade Police, and ATF, after searching the canal, find absolutely nothing.
Correct.
December 5th of 18, you meet with the medical examiner, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, approximately 3 months later, January 27th of 19, you execute a warrant on an apartment located at 5700 Tuscan Place, apartment number 307, Margate, Florida. Correct?
It was the 28th, sir.
The 28th, not the 27th?
Correct, sir.
Okay, I stand corrected. On January 28th, you execute a warrant on that apartment.
Yes, sir.
That is an apartment belonging to Jameson Francois and Adira Scott, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's the same Jameson Francois that had some 16 million in his account. We're talking about the same person, correct?
Yes, sir.
You go there 3 months after the shooting with BSO officers, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
ATF officers,
Yes, sir.
K9 officers,
Yes, sir.
and the SWAT team.
Yes, sir.
In that apartment owned by or rented by Jameson Francois, you find a 40 caliber round, do you know?
Yes, sir.
You also find a storage key, correct?
Yes, sir.
That leads to a locker, a storage locker, correct?
Yes, sir.
You in turn execute a search warrant on that locker.
Yes, sir.
I think it's storage unit 5, if I can read my writing, 509, located on South State Road 7 in Margate, correct?
Correct, sir.
Now, I noticed it wasn't mentioned, or maybe I missed it, but in that locker you found, did you not, a black holster, correct?
Yes, sir.
You found another black holster with a Glock back strap on it,
Yes, sir.
and a black holster with a magazine holder,
Yes, sir.
and various gun locks, correct?
Yes, sir.
No guns.
No guns.
Without telling us, you never, ever interviewed Jameson Francois to ask him about the 3 black holsters found in that locker, correct?
I interviewed him after that incident.
You never asked him about those black holsters found in there, correct?
I'm not sure, sir.
You're not sure. And you never asked him about the gun locks, correct?
Correct.
And you never, ever, as we sit here today, know where those guns that were locked in his storage unit are, correct?
Correct.
And then on January 27th, I think you testified, Cortlen Henry was arrested in Texas, correct?
Correct, sir.
You went out there, correct?
Yes, sir.
You knew he had a lawyer, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you went out there to question him, despite the fact that you were aware that he had a lawyer,
What's the
correct?
objection?
May we approach?
Sure.
Proceed, Your Honor.
Yes.
You went out there, sir,
Yes, sir.
knowing he had a lawyer, correct?
Yes.
And you went out there to question him about this case, correct?
His rights were never invoked.
In fact, you were escorted out of the jail because the yelling between you and he got so loud that the guards asked you to leave, correct?
No, sir, that's a false statement.
False statement. Now, there came a time that you issued a warrant for this young man's arrest, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the people that generally execute that warrant are the U.S. Marshals.
Yes, sir.
And you gave them a picture of this young man, which is, of course, standard operating procedure, correct?
Yes, sir.
And they, in fact, based upon the picture that you gave them, took someone into custody for a short period of time.
Sustained.
The person that the marshals took into
Objection
custody,
relevant.
Sustained objection.
do you know the person that the marshals took into custody based upon your picture that you provided?
I sustain the objection.
Your Honor, it's
Still
carried
opposed.
instruction.
Counsel, ask your next question.
On February 13th, Melly voluntarily surrendered, correct?
Yes, sir.
On February 14th, you conduct another search on US 27 and Johnson Street, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's also based upon your so-called analysis of various items that you looked at, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell this jury what you found.
Nothing.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
May I proceed?
Please.
On February 25th of 19, you execute a warrant on Jameson Francois' car, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was a 2016 Kia?
Kia Optima.
Huh?
Kia, yes, sir.
and find absolutely nothing relevant to this case, correct?
Correct.
No blood stains at all, correct?
Correct.
Nothing pertinent to this case.
Correct.
On February 28th of 19, you, along with the assistance of, I think, the state, bring Jameson Francois into the state attorney's office, correct?
Yes, sir.
And miraculously, you get this phone 9807
Yes, sir.
from Mr.
Francois.
Jameson Francois, correct?
Yes, sir.
You have, as we sit here today, no idea how long he had that phone, correct?
That's not true, sir. We kind of from the interviews in the cell, in the interview from the jail calls tell us when it was when the defendant talked to his mother and told her they need to get the phone over to track, which was Jameson Francois. So it was right about that time that we got transferred over.
May I have one moment? Or this would be a good time to break for lunch, so I can locate it.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our lunch and recess now. Do not discuss the case. Don't form any opinion about the case. Don't allow anyone to discuss the case in your presence or no research. We'll see everybody back at 1:15. Please don't pay those chairs. Have a nice lunch. Thank you. Let the record reflect the jury stepped out. Counsel remain along with the defendant. Counsel, I'm not trying to rush you or anything like that, but how long do you think you have on your cross approximately?
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
And let me look at my notes. I'd say between an hour and a half to 2, hopefully closer to an hour and a half.
So how much redirecting you might have?
30 minutes or so?
Pardon me?
30 minutes or so?
So, you're going to call any other witnesses?
Yeah.
So are you going to have witnesses this afternoon, get somebody in here?
We would ask to start our case tomorrow morning, if that's possible.
It's always possible.
All right, thank you.
What about witnesses today, though? You don't think that there's, you have somebody available? And I know you know, there's issues with experts. I'm not talking about experts.
No, we would need till tomorrow morning.
You need to come on.
Yes, sir. I'm not trying to be difficult there.
Possibly.
I didn't anticipate, we did not anticipate the state would be that brief this morning with the detective.
So you'll call, assuming, you know, that that it goes as planned today with great.
We'll be ready to rock and roll tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Okay, all right. Anything to discuss, Council?
The council be so kind as to tell me who they are calling, as I've been gracious enough to tell them.
We will, when we make the final decision. Fair enough?
Fair enough?
All right. Have a nice lunch. We'll recess. Jerry entering. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Please be seated. Let the record once again reflect the presence of the defendant, Mr. Demons, his counsel, the assistant state attorneys, as well as the ladies and gentlemen of the juries. Our witness remains on the stand. I hope you all had a nice lunch when we broke. Counsel was on his cross-examination of Detective Moretti. So hopefully you're able to continue now, counsel. Is that all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You may.
Detective, I think I left asking you if you ever asked Jameson Francois how long he had the 9807 phone that's attributed to Melly.
I never asked him that question.
You never asked him.
Correct, sir.
So you don't know specifically from him. Well, let me back up. When you met him, he pulled it out of his pocket, correct?
It was in like a fanny pack.
Okay, he pulled it out of his fanny pack. And you never asked him how long he had it, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to make him, because he had the 9807 phone, the 3 holsters in his storage locker, and the ammunition found in his house as a suspect.
Okay,
That would be number 6.
number 6, Mr. Jameson Francois, the cell site data does not put him at the scene.
I'm not asking, there's no question pending, so I appreciate you offering.
Okay.
So we get the 9807 phone from Mr. Francois. And as we sit here today, you don't know where the 3 guns are that were found and that were missing from the holsters in his storage, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know anything about the gun locks, whether or not they are related to additional guns, correct?
Correct.
Now we know that when Cortlen Henry was arrested, he was wearing different clothes or a different shirt than what was portrayed by him as he walked out of the studio, correct?
He was arrested on the 26th.
I'm sorry?
You're right.
I said he wasn't arrested on the 26th.
You're absolutely right. We know that when you saw Mr. Henry at the hospital and compared what he was wearing at the hospital to what he was wearing as he walked out of the studio, he had on a different clothes.
Yes.
We also know that the victim's DNA was on Mr. Henry's shirt, correct?
Yes, sir.
We also know that Mr. Henry had GSR located on his hands.
2 parts GSR.
Now, when Melly surrendered in February of 19, I think it was February 13,
Yes, sir.
for all practical purposes, I think you marked case closed by arrest, correct?
Yes, sir.
When did Sergeant Williams from BSO get involved, if you know?
The exact date I do not know.
Would it was after you closed the case, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who asked Sergeant Williams to get involved? And he's the one who supposedly did the trajectory analysis.
That actually transpired when the case was filed with the state attorney's office. So sometime late January 2019. And it's also been corroborated by the fact that when they turned over discovery to you, it said trajectory analysis pending. So that information was made available to you back then. We just had not started that portion.
Would it surprise you to learn that it was November 16th of 2021 that Williams was contacted by the prosecutor's office?
No.
That was 3-4 years after this event?
Yes, sir.
Would it also, you met with Sergeant Williams, correct?
Yes, sir.
And would it surprise you to learn that after meeting with you and looking at your reports, he put that aside?
I don't know, sir.
Would it also surprise you to learn that he came into this courtroom and said, do you know when Detective Polo from the BSO got involved in this investigation?
It was sometime before we went back to grand jury and re-indicted.
Would it surprise you to learn that he didn't get involved until February of 2022?
That would surprise me.
That was what? Close to 4 years after the event.
If you say so.
Well, 18 to 22, isn't that about 4 years?
I'm just not arguing with you, sir. I'm just arguing
Okay.
with you.
Would it also surprise you that after this young man surrendered and was charged with these murders, that years later there was a DNA analysis again done?
Yes, sir.
You're aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Heck of an investigation, I guess.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Would it also surprise you that after the Jeep was searched and processed hours on 3 different occasions, that miraculously Sergeant Williams found additional evidence in the vehicle that obviously someone missed?
Yes, sir. I read that.
So someone did do their job completely.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustain.
We have so far 6 suspects in this case. Cortlen Henry, correct?
Yes, sir.
David Hedgepath,
Yes, sir.
a guy Bentley unknown because you didn't bother to look at
Objection, Your
that,
Honor.
correct?
Argumentative.
Sustain.
Bentley, correct?
We did look into it, we could not identify it.
Okay. Unidentified. Christopher Thomas Sr., correct?
Yes, sir.
The incident at Walmart,
Yes, sir.
Jameson Francois, so far, as suspects.
Yes, sir.
You also talk about a Montrell Roll as a potential suspect, correct?
I never identified Montreal Rule as a suspect.
Well, did you review some jail calls without telling me what they are? I don't want to get in trouble. Without telling me what they are, did it lead to Montrell Roll knowing some information?
I have to be careful, I don't want to upset anyone and cause a sidebar. There was a
It just
conversation.
requires a yes or no. So,
Repeat your question, sir.
Did Montrell Roll, because of information he may have known, become at one time a suspect?
No.
No. Did you interview Montrell Roll or his sister?
His sister, yes.
And without telling me why or what was said, that was because of some information, whatever that information was, dealing with these murders, correct?
Correct.
Now, there was talk, I think by you, at the request of the state, about a Jay Green.
Yes, sir.
Jay Green was someone who had, based upon your investigation, threatened this young man, correct?
And there was some tension between the two, yes.
Did you bother to interview Jay Green?
I did not because...
It only requires a yes or no, sir.
Okay.
So
No,
the
sir.
answer to your question is, and you keep writing those notes down,
Objection,
you did
Your
not.
Honor.
Sustain.
You did not even take the time to interview Jay Green, correct?
Correct, sir.
That's suspect number 8. There was also an individual by the name of Frito Bang that you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
Frito Bang, his real name is Frederick Givens, correct?
Correct.
Frederick Givens was a rap singer, correct?
Yes, sir.
He lived right around the corner on the other side of the lake where Melly lived, correct?
Correct.
There was also some talk on the various phones you analyzed of putting this young man on the plate, right?
Yes, sir.
That is a fancy way or a code way of saying, I'm going to kill him, correct?
Correct.
And that was done by, let me make sure, sir. That was done by Herc
Yes, sir.
and Goon.
I don't remember Goon, but I do remember her.
Did you take the time to interview Herc?
No, sir.
So that would be suspect number.
Sorry?
Objection, Your Honor, to the use of discussed sidebar.
Like, I'm sustaining objection, just,
Yes, sir.
you referring
I'm
to,
trying.
no argument.
Yes, sir. That would be suspect number 10.
Yes, sir.
There was mention about Goon, who was on various messages, also threatening this young man because he wasn't responding to her or any of the other upper echelon people in this gang called the Bloods.
Okay.
Correct?
Correct.
Did you talk to Goon?
No, sir.
Do you even know Goon's real name?
No, sir.
Do you know Herc's real name?
No, sir.
And I think you mentioned a guy by the name of Gino that also was, you reviewed some messages saying he's not responding to the various members of,
The United Blood Nation?
yeah,
Yes, sir.
tell the members of the jury who Gino is.
Probably another gang member.
Do you know his real name?
No, sir.
We're now up to 13 suspects.
Yes, sir.
And I don't like to stop at 13 because some people think that's an unlucky number. So how about Quando Wando, who also threatened this young man? Did you bother to talk to him or investigate him?
No, sir.
We'll stop at lucky 14. I think that's 30. Now, as a trained investigator, you would never intimidate any witness to a crime, would you?
Correct.
You would never threaten a witness if he said something you didn't like, would you?
No, sir.
You mentioned the name of Patrick Deloche.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned that you interviewed him as a potential witness, right?
Yes, in the presence of the state attorney.
Okay. And did you threaten him by...
Hearsay.
I'm sorry?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustain.
Didn't you threaten Patrick Deloche
Objection.
without telling me what it is?
Overruled.
No, sir. I don't believe I threatened him. Did I advise him that lying to us could result in him being charged with a crime?
Patrick
Yes.
Deloche. You mentioned an Adrian Davis.
Yes.
Did you threaten him at all?
No, sir.
If someone would ask for an attorney, as you're questioning them, you would.
Speculation.
Sustained.
You interviewed Adara Scott, correct?
Yes.
Did you threaten her?
Did not threaten her, sir. I advised her that not being truthful and honest could result in her being arrested for accessory after the fact.
And go to prison for a long time, correct?
What's the objection?
Hearsay.
What he said, my understanding is.
Yes.
We're not asking what the
No.
person might have said, it's what you said, Detective.
Yes. I had to review the statement, but I did advise her that lying to us could result in her being charged for accessory after the fact.
And go to jail for a long time, correct?
And that's what's in my statement, and that's what's in my statement.
And didn't you also tell Patrick Deloche?
Objection. Hearsay.
It's what he said. I'm sorry. Let's go to Patrick Deloche and see if I can refresh your recollection. May I approach?
Yes, sir. What are you approaching with?
A statement and his words.
Whose statement?
Patrick Deloche with Detective Moretti and Christine Bradley present.
Thank you.
That conversation was not specific to the murder. That was
Excuse
specific.
me. Did you in fact threaten to have him be federally indicted? Yes or no?
Yes, because of gun sales.
Gun sales. Did you in fact tell him that he would not see his kids for a couple of years?
Possibly.
Well, may I approach?
Yes, sir. Same document?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Did you in fact threaten Jameson Francois?
Same answer, sir. We advised him that lying to us could result in their arrest.
Did you in fact tell him he would be deported to Haiti?
Yes.
Did you in fact tell him that despite the fact that he has lived in this country since he's been 5 years old, he would be deported to... These are his words.
Counsel?
I'm sorry.
Relevance.
I apologize.
Hitting the witnesses.
Restate your question, Counsel.
Did you, as a trained investigator, threaten Jameson Francois to be deported to Haiti, even though he's been in this country since 5 years?
Yes, sir.
Did you, in fact, threaten that he would not get fed and get any medicine in the Haitian jails?
I don't know about that in conversations.
Threatening a witness is,
Objection, Your Honor.
If anyone has a question. What's the objection?
Relevance.
Thank you. Overrule this relevance. Go ahead. Ask your question.
do you think threatening a witness who tells you something that you don't like really gets to the truth?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Sustain.
When you questioned Jameson Francois, were you alone, or did you bring immigration officers with you?
We were at the Chrome Detention Center, so of course the immigration officer had to be there.
May I approach?
Same state.
A different state. Jameson Francois. Did you in fact tell him that the jails are overcrowded, in referring to Haiti? It's disease-ridden. It's a, excuse my French, a shithole.
Thank you. Objection noted. Overruled.
I underlined it so you could see it.
Excuse me, counsel.
Oh. All right.
Judge, you're still the witness there.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor.
Sustain. Counsel, I've asked you a couple times.
I apologize. Have you ever heard the term a key to an interview to get to the truth is you catch more with honey rather than vinegar?
Yes, sir.
Would you consider these threats that you gave to these various witnesses?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation. Relevance.
Sustain.
You obviously don't follow that technique.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustain.
Let me show you the list of suspects that we talked about and see if this is true and correct. May I approach?
Show counsel.
Is this a fair and accurate list of the suspects we talked about that you indicated are suspects in this case?
Yes, sir.
Would you sign it for me? And date it today's date? Thank you. May I approach to get the document back? I would ask that this be marked as the next offense exhibit.
Your Honor. State rejected this time.
So it can be marked as a exhibit for identification. Just mark it for identification. It's not evidence.
And does that document exhibit
C.
C, defendant C. Fairly and accurately.
No, sir.
It doesn't. It lists all the names we talked about, correct?
Yes, sir.
All the names involved in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
I move it in evidence.
Okay.
Sustained.
I have no further questions.
Madam, is there any redirect to this witness?
Yes, please. So, Detective Moretti, you said that's not a fair and accurate statement of all of the suspects. Who needs to be added to that list before you could say it actually describes the people that are suspects in this case?
It's missing the defendant's name.
And who would that be?
Jamell Demons.
Okay. With regards to the first thing counsel asked you about, the word that. I want to go to what's been previously put into evidence as State 64. And if this is also kind of switch to other source. Gary was kind enough to get our screen working. Going to what's highlighted on the screen. What's the name of the song by Mr. Demons? What is that one called? In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen?
Melly fix that THAT_01.mp3.
Okay. In terms of going through the various messages. Yes, please. Going on previously in evidence is States 106. Is that same song sent back and forth between Mr. Williams and Mr. Demons?
Yes, ma'am.
That was from States 106 for counsel. Going to States 112. Statements, and this is the conversation between the 6942 number on September 16th of 2018. How does the defendant spell that?
THAT.
Okay. On November 18th of 2018, how does the defendant spell that?
THAT.
On December 31st of 2018, how does the defendant spell that?
THAT.
Counsel asked you about that red Mitsubishi. I'm going now to States 118, the Facebook. Specifically page 293. Starting on page 294, the conversation who on October 28th of 2018, who is that being sent by? Who is the author of that message, "Hey baby"?
Gianna Thompson.
On October 30th of 2018, 212413 UTC. There's a what does this message from Ms. Thompson to Jamell Demons Facebook say?
You gave me a truck, baby? Question mark, question mark.
Do you know what truck that is?
The red Mitsubishi.
Before that, October 28th, 2018. What does Jamell Demons send as a message to Janet Thompson?
My lawyer and my label told me not to talk to nobody.
Excuse
but I'm
me, I
taking-
have an objection. May we approach?
Yep.
Okay, continuing on. Told me not to talk to nobody.
But I'm taking care of the funeral, and your family is going to be good for life. But I know it won't replace this heartbreak ever, but it's the least I can do. Then 4 emojis that we don't have there.
On October 28, 2018, how does Janet Thompson respond? You can just read the first through ashes.
I don't want him buried. I want his ashes.
So, Detective Moretti, counsel asked you about that list of suspects.
Yes, ma'am.
On Bentley. I'm going to go to in States 70, page 132. And this is in the chat with Chapa on August 27th, 2018. Is the name Bentley referred to there?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you could say, and I just want you to read from here to here.
Bentley told him not to sell it.
Okay.
Not to sell it.
So you talked about a charm or something. Is this the post regarding this necklace from Walmart?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is the date on that?
8/25/2018.
So is Bentley and the person from Walmart the same suspect?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What information do you have in this case that puts Montrell Rule at the scene?
No information whatsoever. He was in jail at the time.
So his alibi checked out.
Yes, ma'am.
So we can cross him off that list. Let's go to Chris Thomas Sr. Any information whatsoever that puts him at the scene?
No, ma'am.
Any indication whatsoever that he wanted to kill his own son?
No, ma'am.
Cross him off the list. Going to David Hedgepeth, Crucial Almighty. You indicated you first wrote a search warrant for his involvement on October 31st of 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything that ties him to the scene in Miramar?
None whatsoever.
And in terms of the follow-up investigation with his work records,
Yes, ma'am.
after you reviewed them, did you move on in your investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
Going now to Cortlen Henry. Is Mr. Henry involved in this case?
Mr. Henry is a co-indicted defendant.
Going now in terms of the Jameson Francois. Does Mr. Francois have an alibi?
Yes.
How so?
He was at his house at the time.
And how do you know that?
His wife.
How else do you know that?
Cell site data.
What about Jay Green? Counsel wouldn't let you answer the because, so I'm going to ask if you complete your answer. So why can you say because Jay Green?
Because later that day, the defendant reached out to Jay Green, had a conversation with him on Instagram, and the conversation was, "I love you, fool."
Continuing on to Frederick Givens. How do you know that he wasn't there at Pembroke Road US 27?
Based upon the text conversation, he is the one that went to the scene, or to the pickup point, to pick up the defendant and take him back to his house.
Okay. And in terms of the location of the defendant going back to his house, whose house do you mean?
Frederick Gibbons' house.
Frederick Givens' house. Does Mr. Demons' phone connect back to the YNW Castle?
That day, no.
Kirk, Goon, and Gina. Do you have any indication whatsoever that either of those individuals were here in the state of Florida on October 26th of 2018?
No, ma'am.
Quando Rondo. Who is that?
I don't know, ma'am.
And in terms of when you're interviewing a witness, do you advise them of what perjury is?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that done in every single one of your statements?
Yes, ma'am.
In terms, there's a lot of talk about surveillance footage and going and looking at various surveillance footage on that. Does the business have an obligation to cover the roadway in front of it?
Most of the time they don't.
Why?
It's not in their interest. They're most places like CVS and Walmart, they're more focused on what's going on inside.
So in terms of all the various places that you went to, did you collect evidence if it didn't show anything?
No, ma'am.
In terms of the cellular analysis that you did,
Yes, ma'am.
were you able to compare and contrast the cellular analysis you did with the one that the FBI did?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any discrepancies between the two?
Objection.
What's the objection?
Conclusion on it and speaking for another witness.
Overruled.
Were there any discrepancies between those two?
No, ma'am. My report mirrored their report.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
I have just a few with the court's permission.
Yes.
Would you agree with me that if you don't check the surveillance tapes, you have no idea what's on them?
Correct.
So you don't know what's on any of these cameras, on all of these companies that had cameras up and down Miramar Parkway, Pines, and the route that you took the helicopter ride on. Correct?
We were able to walk it out and assess what the cameras covered and what it did not cover.
Frederick Givens, you said purportedly my client went there. Certainly you got a search warrant to search that house for blood, clothes, or anything of that nature.
Sustain.
Did you get a search warrant for...
Excuse me, I sustain the objection.
You mentioned Frederick Givens, is that correct?
Yes.
You mentioned and just told this jury that supposedly my client went to that house immediately after this incident, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you get a search warrant for that house? Verify or collect evidence?
Outside the scope.
Over,
We did not find out the exact location of Frederick Givens until we actually seized the cell phone, analyzed the cell phone. Because if you look back at previous statements, no one could ever give us the address. So by the time we actually discovered what his address was, he was no longer living in that area.
So the answer is no.
Correct.
Would you agree with the premise that you won't find any evidence
Objection, Your Honor.
sustained.
if you don't
Objection, Your Honor.
If, sustained. Rephrase the question.
the individual, may I do it from here? I'm sorry, Judge.
Yes, sir.
The individuals that you say had no connection to this incident,
Yes.
you did not investigate, correct?
Incorrect.
Did you investigate Wanda Quanda?
Don't know who that is.
Did you investigate Jay Green?
Yes.
Did you investigate Bentley?
Couldn't determine who Bentley was.
Can I see that list? Did you investigate Walmart incident?
No, sir.
Did you mention Montrell Road?
Yes, sir.
Did you investigate his sister?
Yes.
Did you investigate her?
No.
Did you investigate Goon?
No.
Did you investigate Gina?
No.
Thank you.
Any further questions, counsel?
Briefly, Your Honor. Detective Moretti, do you look at any one piece of evidence by itself?
No, ma'am. Our decision to make an arrest is based upon the totality of the circumstances. It's all the factors encompassed in the case, not just one person's name, one text message. It's everything.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. You're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Madam, you want to call your next witness?
At this time, the state would rest.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need a few minutes with the attorneys. Do not discuss the case, don't form any opinion about the case, don't allow anyone to discuss the case in your presence. Certainly no research, including no heads on your chairs. Thank you. Thank you. Let the record reflect the jury stepped out. Counsel remain along with the defendant. So the state rested. Are we still on schedule for tomorrow then? You said Brian Collins is going to be your witness. Is that right?
Yes, Judge.
Yes?
It's a possibility, Judge. Possible.
And he's available, Ms. Bradley?
Yes, Your Honor. He indicated, last counsel had asked for him to be here at 8:30. He said he could be here at 8:30.
All right. So assuming that you call Mr. Collins, is there any other witnesses that you anticipate calling tomorrow now?
We may have one more witness.
All right, so and is the state going to have any rebuttal?
Depending on if they call the one civilian, there is a possibility of that.
So it's a possibility, and it's going to be long or short.
Very short, Your Honor.
So are you all telling me or suggesting to me that you think you'll be over by, let's say, lunchtime tomorrow?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Adelstein?
Yes, sir.
Yes? No.
Yes.
So I know you asked me to just adjourn or let the jury go now, so nothing's changed in that regard, correct? I'm just going to excuse the jury, tell them to be back here tomorrow at 9.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and any objection if I just have Gary tell him, see you back tomorrow at 9?
No.
No, Your Honor.
All right, so Gary, can you tell him, excuse him, walk him out?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So you have any motions?
Yes, Your Honor, we would move for a judgment of acquittal on the premise that the state has not presented a case sufficient for a jury to rely upon and for a conclusion of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond the several suspects who were not investigated, with the contention is they have no connection to the case, which would be a difficult contention to make, having not investigated them. The DNA evidence is inconclusive. The cell tower evidence, the witness said when it's specific, it's not accurate, and when it's accurate, it's not specific, and gave us essentially a statement that in certain instances, he was rarely able just to say that 2 phones were in the city of Miramar. And so they have no, this is a circumstantial case, and the circumstances themselves lend to a multitude of various scenarios. And in that instance where a set of circumstances can lead to the conclusion of guilt and conclude to the conclusion of innocence, a jury would be required, and therefore we would argue that such a level of proof doesn't rise to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. What it does is it invites the jury to speculate and find proof less than proof beyond a reasonable doubt, where other scenarios of innocence exist. And so we would respectfully move the court for a judgment of acquittal at this time.
State?
Your Honor, the state would also make sure that counsel is aware of Bush v. State 295, 7th, 3rd, 179. That's a 2020 Florida Supreme Court case in which there is no special circumstantial standard of review on the judgment of acquittal. The state has put forth competent evidence to support each and every element of first-degree premeditated murder as to both count 1 and count 2, that the defendant is the individual who committed said crimes, that the victims are the ones that were deceased, and that there is a premeditated killing.
I'm sorry. We also renew all of our previously made objections during the motions to suppress before Judge Siegel, and all of our objections that we made during the course of the trial and the motions for mistrial.
Thank you. All right, so I'll defer ruling, take it under advisement unless there's some other response. Is that your, no other response?
That's it, Your Honor.
So I'll defer ruling, take it under advisement. So the plan going forward now is we're going to hear from, or may hear from Brendan Collins tomorrow. You may have one additional witness other than that, correct, Mr. Adelstein?
Correct.
And the state may or may not have one rebuttal witness, but if that's the case, it'll still be done by, let's say, noon tomorrow, right?
I think that's a fair assessment.
So then tomorrow afternoon, you're going to read the jury instructions tonight,
Yes, sir.
and we're going to go over, we'll have a charge conference tomorrow afternoon. And we're anticipating then doing closings. I'm just going to tell the jury, you're going to find out tomorrow morning whether you're going to be available Wednesday morning or not.
Yes, sir.
So if you're available Wednesday, we're going to do closings on Wednesday. If you're not available Wednesday, I'm just going to tell the jury to come back on Thursday. Is that what we all agree to? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I would prefer to be here, Your Honor. I understand there are higher authorities compelling my presence elsewhere, but that is my preference, would be to be here and be closing on Wednesday.
And my preference is to be home, Judge, to be candid.
Understood, but you suggested there's there's some motion filed or something like that where they're saying they're not ready in the other case.
Correct.
So I don't know anything about it. Respectfully, it's just, Judge Fine requested your presence a couple of weeks ago because he had 250 jurors coming in, doesn't want to waste their time. All right, so I acquiesced to it. But in any event, so we'll just play it by ear, and we'll see everybody back tomorrow, 9 a.m., and we'll sort it out then. All right?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. And, assuming goes to the jury on, the earliest it'll go is at third, 15 your closing's Thursday. So it should be Thursday, it goes to the jury, and they'll have the room sequestered for then. Unless something happens and you're basically available on Wednesday, then we'll do it on Wednesday, and the jury will get sequestered Wednesday night.
Yes, sir.
All right? All right, play it by ear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?